Good morning, everyone. I'm a few minutes late this morning. I apologize for that. I hope everyone is doing well here on this beautiful sunny day in New York. We had some really incredible weather the last few days. Good morning, Jean. It is early November and it was actually 75 degrees. So that was like a gift from God, especially for someone like me who worships the sun and the heat. Worship is a strong word, but I really do enjoy it. As you know, good morning, Graziano. I am Tina Shayani. I am the founder of this group, Journey to Lasting Love, and I am the head coach at Tisha Coaching. Good morning, Michelle and the crew. So nice to have you here with us this morning. So here we are once again, Wednesday morning. We have a very, very important topic today. Are you living with the enemy? And when I say that, the first thing that pops to mind is that you're living with another human being, somebody outside of yourself, that is abusive to you. And in fact, you are the victim, someone with no control. That is, good morning, Regal Park Group. Oh, and Dr. P, thanks for joining us this morning. So the first thing that pops into our minds is that we are living with someone who is an abuser, who is outside of us, and we have little or no control over the situation. The first thing I want to say is that we always have control. We always have choices to make in every situation. But the topic that I really want to address here today is not the abuser that is outside of us, but the abuser that lives inside of us. That little voice that we live with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the thoughts that never stop going. And each person has the same thing. Nobody is unique. We all have that little voice inside our heads. We are just not all conscious of that little voice. And we don't understand that we have some control, that we ultimately do have control over that conversation. That it is a two-way conversation and we have some control over that conversation. So is your personal abuser on the inside? Are you constantly abusing yourself? Are you constantly, not even constantly, but regularly? What is the state of your internal dialogue? What is that voice telling you every day? What does that conversation look like? And most of us go through life never really paying attention to it, never understanding that it is there and we just listen to it. But we do have a choice. We don't have to listen. And over time, we can take control of that conversation and we can use it to better ourselves, better our living situation. So what is the purpose of this voice? Really, its purpose initially is to keep us safe. What it's trying to do is to keep us safe from embarrassing ourselves, from humiliating ourselves, from being stupid, from leaving the house, from anything that will put us in the smallest way in harm's way. But how effective is this in really keeping us safe? Are we really going to humiliate ourselves every time we open our mouths? And what happens if we do say something stupid? Are we going to spontaneously combust and die on the spot? The answer is no. The answer is no. We are not going to die. The world will not end. Everyone will not hate us if we say and do the wrong thing. And when something does happen that is embarrassing, we don't need to keep playing it over and over and really beating ourselves up with a mistake that we made. It's okay to make mistakes. And this is something that you can tell that voice when it keeps replaying and rehashing. You can say, stop. I appreciate that you're trying to help me here, but I'm okay. And stop. And the next time it comes, you do it again and you do it again. And you keep putting the brakes on this negative nonsense that you are telling yourself. And you'll have to do it 1 time, 2 times, 30 times, 100 times. But it will start to take root and it will change. And when you catch yourself saying something negative to yourself, when you catch yourself in effect being abusive to yourself, the thing is to stop. The thing is to stop. Tell it stop and have another thought and say, it's okay. I survived that embarrassing moment. Nobody else is thinking about that. It's time to let it go. And you can speak to the voice and say, please let it go. Please let it go. And eventually, over time, change will come about inside of you. But the other thing is, and I see this a lot with my clients, is that people defend the voice. Well, it's telling me that I'm stupid because I am stupid. Look at me. I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm stupid. That's why it's telling me. So we buy into what the voice is telling us. We buy into our limitations. Not only do we buy into it, then we start to defend it and say, no, but I am like this because this happened, this happened, this happened. These are the reasons why I am this way. Good morning, Grace. Good morning, Nazila. So you can, not only do we buy into it, we believe everything that the voice is telling us, but then we become its defender and we start justifying the reasons why it's right. I am a piece of garbage because of this and this and this. And if I wasn't, and we don't necessarily use the term garbage, we tend to mask it and be more passive aggressive, that it's not so blatantly, obviously mean. But it's there, and then we defend it and we justify why it's right. So I am here to tell you that voice inside of your head that is constantly putting you down is not correct. That is not the answer. And we have, the majority of us, I want to say all of us, but there's always some exception, have spent our lifetimes, an entire lifetime since we're small, every small criticism that someone meant nothing by, a passing comment, we internalize this and we keep repeating it to ourselves. Even when it's over, we keep going, we keep going, we keep going, and it's like beating yourself with a baseball bat. And where has this criticism gotten you your whole life? It's gotten you paralyzed, unable to take steps forward, and it just feels so bad. It just feels so bad. What if you were to start giving yourself compliments? What if you were to celebrate a small win? If you set a small goal, and I'm trying to, like getting up 20 minutes earlier in the morning so that you don't have to rush, and you do that one day. You set this small goal and you do it just one day. On that first day, what if we celebrate that and say, wow, you did such a great job? But usually what we do is, so you did it one day, big deal. Let's see if you can keep it up. You never keep up with anything. So many times you've tried a new routine and you give it up. You're never going to succeed at this. Look at the difference. What if we were to celebrate those small wins for ourselves? Good morning, Claudia. What if we were to give ourselves credit for those small wins? And what does it do? It encourages us to have more wins, to set us up for success. Instead of tearing down everything positive that we do because we may stop doing it, what if we were to build ourselves up? What if we were to be a friend instead of an enemy? What if we were to be our own cheerleader? So now let's go back to the example of the abuser outside of us. So imagine that you lived with a person who was always telling you how wonderful you are, how special you are, and congratulating you for every wonderful thing that you do. How good would that feel? How good would that feel? But if you have that abuser inside of you, it really doesn't matter what is coming in from the outside. Because even that wonderful, kind, loving person is going to tell you 50 wonderful things, and then one thing that is not so perfect, and what are you going to end up holding on to? You're going to hold on to that one small imperfection, and you're going to run it over and over and over. Do you believe he said this to me? Do you believe, am I really fat? Is my nose really too big? Was that sweater too tight? Do my jeans not fit me well? So this, unless you have an internal change, whatever happens on the outside is not going to be effective. Whatever happens on the outside, you're going to put your own lens of negativity on it. So why can't we work to be a best friend internally instead of an enemy? Because being an enemy to ourselves, this abusive self-talk, and it is truly abusive. When you say one of these things to yourself, I want you to turn it around and say, would I say this to a friend? Would I say this to another human being? And the answer is almost always no. We would never, ever, ever in a million years treat a friend, a colleague, a person on the street as badly as we treat ourselves. So I really want this to hit home, and I want you to start to look. I remember the very first time that I really started to focus on this internal voice, and I really started to pay attention to what it was saying. I remember the moment so specifically. I was in a yoga class, and it had to have been, I don't know how many years ago, a very, very long time ago. And I'm trying to concentrate on the moves that I was doing, and this voice, this constant chatter, and you know, it's quiet in there, and it feels like it should be quiet on the inside also. So then the voice was amplified, and I could hear this whole dialogue going back and forth. And I was like, oh my God, what is it that you're saying to me? Stop. But we can't make it stop. Have you ever tried to make it stop? You can't stop it. But what you can do is turn it from an enemy, someone who rips you apart, someone who's always telling you terrible things about yourself, someone that is always holding you back. We can turn that into a friend. We can turn that into a cheerleader. When I do coaching with my clients, we do this exercise that we reassign it and we give it a new role, and that changes everything. It changes everything. So we can't stop it. We can't stop the internal self-chatter, but we do have the ability to alter it. And I'm not saying that you're going to make that decision and tomorrow morning you're going to get up and say only nice things to yourself. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But it does work. It does work over time. It does take root, and it does work. But the very important component also is so very often we are not aware of what's going on. It's just chatting away in the background, and it is influencing our minds, our decisions, our mood. Everything that we do is being influenced by this, and we don't even know. We don't even know that it's there. So the very first and most important thing is to work at discovering what is going on in there. Who is this person that is living with me, that is living inside of me, that really does have my best interest at heart because it's working for my survival, but is what it's telling me viable? Is what it's telling me true? Is it helpful? So it's really very often so great to work with someone that can bring this out, to bring it to the surface. And once you see how ridiculous it is that this voice is telling you these things, then you can start to work with it. You can start to shape it. But the other very, very, very important step that comes right after awareness is to understand that it's wrong, that its opinion of you is wrong. To give yourself credit for being wonderful, for being special. And you can't go from hate to love in 1 minute. You have to go little steps, small wins to get you somewhere else. I was talking to someone that she was very much fighting for her limitation of being ugly and worthless and stupid, and she's really not any of those things. She is a regular, normal human being. She's a wonderful human being. But she kept trying to convince me that I was wrong and she was right, that she really is ugly, she really is stupid. So she was fighting for her limitation, and I did something kind of really mean to her. I turned it around on her. She is someone that had lost her mother as a teenager, and I turned to her and I said, would your mother allow you to say these things? How would your mother feel if she heard the things that you were saying to her daughter? And I think that was a tipping point, because it put what she was saying into perspective, and it made her realize how awful the things were that she was saying to herself. And she began to look at herself not through the eyes of a critic, but through the eyes of a loving mother. And that's when things changed. And I further asked her, I said, well, how would you feel if your daughter was having this internal conversation? So, but my daughter is so beautiful and smart, and she's nothing like me. So it was just a really funny and interesting exchange. So I had to really push her to a limit, and I felt bad to go there with her, but it worked. It really got the message across. Stop fighting for the limitation. Stop fighting for it. Stop trying to convince yourself and other people that this internal enemy's opinion is right, because it's not. Even if you are a criminal, which I highly doubt we have criminals in our group, you are not that bad. You are not that bad. And whatever has happened in the past has happened. And you can move forward from here. You can move forward to a new and better place. And you don't need to keep revisiting the garbage from the past. Whatever it was has happened, and leave it behind. Otherwise, you can never move forward. In order to move forward, you need to leave your garbage behind. You need to let it go. You need to let it stay in the past. Otherwise, it's like doing a marathon with a sack of garbage on your back. It's so much harder. It's so much harder. The leaner you are, the easier it is to run that marathon. And life really is a marathon. And we want to be successful, and we want to be happy. So let's stop with this nonsense of being our own abuser. An enemy outside of you is a terrible thing, of course. But the enemy inside of you that you live with 24/7, I want to say, is even worse. So let's work on getting rid of that internal enemy. So how do we do that? One, oh, look at this. My mother has joined. Hello, Maggie. So I was teasing her yesterday that she has never come to my show. Better late than never. Anyway, so what is it that we're gonna do? We are going to first become aware that this internal voice exists. This internal dialogue exists. We're going to look at what it is that it's telling us. And we're going to say, are these things helpful? Are these things making me better? Are they making me happier? Are they making me live a better, more purposeful life? The answer, if you do have an internal enemy, and I'm willing to bet that you do, is no. These things are not helping me. And we're going to start to move from a place of enemy to friendship. We're going to start to slowly, we're going to move that needle slowly. We're going to move a little bit at a time. We're going to say, you know what? This happened and I understand that it was embarrassing, but it's okay. I don't need to be reminded. Thank you. And you shut it down instead of going down the rabbit hole of what happened. Instead of rehashing it, reliving it, we're just going to say, thank you. I don't need to be reminded. I'm going to move forward now. That's another step. But the step before that is to stop defending the mean things that your voice is telling you. Be willing to let it go. So the first step is discovery. The second step is the willingness to let it go. And the third step is reprogramming. And if you are in this situation, and I'm willing to bet that we all are to some extent or another, it takes time. It is the process of a lifetime. And every day that you think about it, there's going to be positive change, and it's going to be slightly better. And that is our goal. Better is our goal. And if in fact you are living with an external enemy as well, the more that you do this on the inside of you, it is also going to affect that abuser. And the chances are that that person is not going to want you anymore. When you stop serving the role of a victim, those relationships tend to fall apart. And isn't that another good thing? But really, our goal here is to feel good. And if you can change that internal dialogue slowly, 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 and go from an enemy to a friend, go from an enemy to a loving friend, every aspect of your life will change. This is probably the single most important thing that you can do for yourself if your goal is a happy life. If your goal is a happy life, this is the single most important thing that you can do. And I invite you to do it. I invite you to ask questions. I invite you to engage, give suggestions. Tell me, Tina, it's too hard. I can't do it. And I will help you to come up with small steps. We can come up with small steps. Remember, we're not going to go from A to Z in an hour or even in a year. It takes time. It takes time, and it takes dedication, and it takes willingness. But the payoff is huge. The payoff is happiness. And what could be better than that? So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you guys enjoyed this show. Please give me your comments. I enjoy interacting with you guys throughout the week. Send me your messages, your suggestions, your questions. I welcome all of them. And I will see you next week and look forward to speaking with you and connecting with you during the week. Take care, guys.